Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel in partnership with sharpbetting.co.uk. Delighted as always to be joined by Greg and Danny, and we're here with a further reaction video to the very controversial fight last night in Belfast as Paddy Donovan was disqualified against Lewis Crocker following a litany of supposed headbutts, elbows, shots after the bell. So we're going to be discussing our thoughts on what went down. You know, it's a hotly debated topic, and was it fair to disqualify Paddy Donovan? And then what's next for both men after that highly controversial electric fight last night in Belfast? So yeah, lads, I hope you're well as always. As I say, we were having a heated debate there even off camera, so we thought we'd save the best bits for on the recording. So let's get straight into it. You know, we all seen it, very, very hotly debated, controversial night. It's been a long time since we've seen a fight as controversial as that and an ending as controversial as that. Greg, I'll start with you. Just let's hear your thoughts on it in terms of, from the start of the controversy with the supposed headbutts leading with the head. Was it warranted the punishments that Donovan was receiving?
Yeah, great to speak to you guys, by the way. Always a pleasure. I feel a bit out of my depth here because you two boys were there last night and I wasn't, but I had the eagle eye view watching the television. Yeah, I watched it really, really tight, Niall, Danny. There was a bit of unluckiness about it, but if you make three mistakes or what have you, then you give the referee a decision to make. I think Crocker was every bit as much to blame with the head. I think the elbow was being used as a rangefinder, as I spoke to you guys off camera, to throw a shot. But if you're still putting your elbow out there and it catches somebody, you're guilty. The shot, he'd already started to throw it, Niall, and it just unfortunately landed the minute the bell stopped. And at the end of the day, if someone says, "Is that wrong?" It's wrong. It might just be a millisecond and there's nothing you can do about it. So, but what I will say, and this is controversial, but you know me, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I say it how it is. I do think Crocker wanted the way out last night, and I think he got it.
Do you know what? I will get back to that because that is a very good point that I did want to touch on in this video. But I'll throw it to Danny first before we get on to that. Same question. What's your thoughts on it? As Greg said, we were both there. You had maybe a better vantage point than I did in the arena, but I did watch it back this morning for a better kind of perspective. What was your thoughts on the whole controversy and the fairness of it, I suppose, towards Paddy Donovan?
Yeah, I suppose I'll start in the order things happened in the fight. I thought the the, the approach Marcus McDonald took on the clashing of heads, which it was, I'd say most of it to me was very harsh. And Paddy Donovan, I thought most of it was a sort of 6-1, half a dozen for the other type thing. I thought for Donovan to lose 3 points in that fight for use of the head is ridiculous, to be honest, when you see what other fighters, UK fighters, not naming needs, maybe someone from Leeds have got away with in the past and not even having warnings. And I think Marcus McDonald almost, it's like when there's a big derby, like say there's a Merseyside derby in football, referees will be very tentative of when they give the first card because they can put themselves in a very difficult position. And I almost think there's an element of that. In regards the elbow, I didn't see it live, I didn't clock it live. Watching back the replay, Greg says it's a rangefinder. I'm sort of torn, but it was a hurtful elbow that landed on Lewis Crocker without a doubt. And then the stoppage, how late was the shot? There were some ridiculous things being spouted in the media section, like, oh, that was 5 seconds late. It was between half a second and a second late. But I think where Marcus McDonald has let himself down there is, where is he? You know, Paddy Donovan he's heard the clamp for the 10 seconds. Paddy Donovan is unloading on Lewis Crocker and he's standing 6 yards away from him. You have to be there, ready to put your arms in, stop boxing straight away. And he was nowhere near it. It felt very harsh on Paddy Donovan, I have to say. I don't know. I think the context of the fight has to be taken into consideration. He was dominant in that fight. The first 4 rounds, he was giving Lewis Crocker a boxing lesson. And after that, he was just beating him up. At no point and I picked Crocker to win the fight. At no point did I think Crocker was even getting into it and even being particularly competitive in it. And on Greg's last point, I said even before the last shot and Crocker going down, obviously he had marking around his eye, he had swelling in the eye. But as it got after that knockdown, he started just closing his eye as if to make it look like his eye was a mess. That's the impression I got. And I think he threw himself to the canvas when Donovan landed after the bell. And it was he needed a miracle from where he was to get out of that fight without a loss. And as Greg says, he got one.
Yeah,
Now, you'll see very quickly before you jump back in. I want to say something to Danny. I totally agreed with his point. See the same clip that Danny's talking about that he watched today. It makes that elbow look 20 times worse than it actually is. I totally agree with him. I watched the same clip and it looks as though it's so bad that he's just doing. But if you watch it live, you go back, it's 6-1. I still think people have been like have an open debate and everything about it. At the end of the day, Danny's right. He left his elbow out there and he caught him. That's what happens, and it looks naughty. But when I did go back and watch that today, boys, it did look bad on a slow mo instant replay. So yeah, fair play.
mm. It's bizarre though. Like he called points off and warnings for the head, the use of the head, and I do agree with you both. I think it's very harsh on Paddy Donovan. I really do. I worry about coming out the videos like this, and we spoke off camera, Greg, about a bias, maybe a national bias of fighters. You think, am I giving them too much slack? But watching the fight back today, the coverage of it. Crocker, as we said, it was is leading with the head as much as Paddy Donovan is. Heads were coming together, but you see far more egregious use of the head than that doesn't get a warning or doesn't get points off. So I thought it was very harsh, but it was bizarre that he misses the elbow. He misses the one that is really naughty, and then he pulls him up on the use of the head. So yeah, I think it is very very harsh on Paddy Donovan to get the points off. The shot after the bell, it was late, and he was already on the 2 points off, so he was on his last warning as it is. So you can't argue there. But I just think the referee performance, it does it was so kind of substandard. It really was. It was very harsh on Paddy Donovan. But yeah, on that point that we said about Crocker, I always kind of hate saying that, our fighters making a meal of it. The reaction that Crocker was given to the use of the head, stopping, looking for the referee's intervention. But I do agree with what you lads said. I do think he was exaggerating a lot of that, to be honest with you. I really do. How much of it do you think kind of, I'll go back to Danny on this one first. How much do you think that kind of behavior of Lewis Crocker influenced the decisions of the referee? Was that a huge part to play in getting Paddy Donovan punished with the points off and ultimately the DQ?
There was one incident that I remember that the heads came together and the referee had said nothing, and Crocker pulled away and gesticulated, and then the referee told Paddy off. Like,
Yeah.
that should not happen. You know what I mean? You're referee in the fight. Lewis Crocker's not referee in this fight. That was one that I noticed that actually happened quite close to where I was sat on the side I was at. Um, I think it probably did come into it. The fact Lewis Crocker was very much the home fighter. I mean, now you were there supporting Paddy Donovan. I think you were probably one of about maybe 4 or 5% of that audience was supporting Paddy Donovan. It was extremely loud for Lewis Crocker, and that can, be it consciously or subconsciously, come in to a referee's thinking. Um, yeah, the refereeing throughout the fight did seem biased towards Lewis Crocker. I have to say, again, I'm not saying that was an intentional thing from Marcus McDonald. He's going to have to try and get this fella to win here, but it can, without referees being aware of it, play into it. Again, just go back on the point you made, and we all made about Lewis Crocker perhaps looking for his way out. I think he would have been pulled out if Donovan hadn't landed that shot after the bell. I think he was done, and I think the way that the fight had been going, it probably came in at this is my best option here. I either get pulled out, I get sent back out there to get, I would have said, brutally stopped. That's more than likely what would have happened in that next round. So yeah, lots to unpack for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots to unpack. Greg, I'll go back to you. Before we wrap up here, I'd have loved to get into kind of the fight itself, but there was so much controversy there to unpack, as Danny said. Just a quick one to finish off. We seen how the fight was going up to that point. A rematch is more than likely going to happen now if Crocker doesn't fight for a world title anyway. Who wins a rematch? No point deductions, no DQs. Who comes out on top in that rematch for you?
Um, whoa, now, I'll be honest, I don't think it happens. I think Lewis Crocker goes up to 154, and I don't think they'll want anything to do with Paddy Donovan again. Just very quickly, I know that we could go on about this all night, but I'm not being harsh here. Couldn't tell you the last fight that I thought Marcus McDonald ref that he'd done a great job. I don't think it's terrible, but same with judging. I haven't seen many great cards from him. Can you imagine if Donovan won that fight last night and then they had a complaint saying, that shot landed after the bell and it wasn't a disqualification? Belfast would be in lockdown as we speak. Peel wouldn't have got out of that arena last night. So yeah, it kind of irks me a little bit just because I like to see fairness in the sport. But to answer your question, I don't think it will happen. But if it does happen, I would think that the momentum's still got to lie with Donovan now, isn't it? He done a good job last night. He boxed well. Crocker can only be better than he was the first time, but I think that he is struggling with the weight. So I think it would just go one of the same way again.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk of, if you're Crocker's advisors, do you keep him well away from a rematch? But Danny, I'll throw the same question to you. If it happens next, it'll be a hotly anticipated rematch. Who do you see coming out on top in that fight that Donovan definitely was winning, but can he repeat that performance?
Yeah, absolutely. You can. I think he'd do another job on Lewis Crocker. I agree. I don't know if it's going to happen or not because there's so many things. I'll try and get through this as quick as I can to factor in. One, the rematch is without doubt the biggest fight for Lewis Crocker, barring maybe a fight with Boots Ennis if he comes through Stanionis. But a vacant world title fight, one, wouldn't make as much money as Paddy Donovan. And two, he'd probably get beat. Like, he'd be a massive underdog against whoever that would be against. But then you sort of think if I fight Paddy Donovan again, they'll not be confident. What does that do to start the move up in weight's another factor. Billy Nelson saying a rematch 100% isn't happening. He says it's a world title shot next. I think it'll need the IBF to mandate it. But if it was to happen, you'd make Paddy Donovan a massive favourite.
Again, I agree. I think he exposed a lot of kind of flaws in Lewis Crocker's game. He made him look very one-dimensional, and I think he would repeat that performance. But yeah, that's all we have time for on this one. Let's hope we do get to see it, the rematch. We could talk for an hour about this, the controversy and the fight itself last night. But that's our take on whether it was a fair decision to disqualify Paddy Donovan against Lewis Crocker following the points deductions and the shot after the bell. So. Yeah, a lot to unpack. Let us know what you think in the comments. What did you make of it? Did you think it was harsh? Did you think it was the correct call? Let us know what you think. And yeah, get involved down below. Let us know who you think wins a rematch. And as always, please don't forget, drop a like on the video. We'd really appreciate it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media. Yeah, we'd really appreciate that. And Greg, Danny, it was an absolute pleasure. Take care.
Cheers,
Thanks,
boys.
guys.